Hello everyone and welcome to the 11th devlog in my game Dwarvernport. It's been a couple of weeks since the last one. So as you remember last time, the game looked like this. So we have our island and we have a desert area, our beaches, and a little guy running around. The last couple weeks, I decided to port the game into the Godot engine out of SDL and C++. So we have that right here. And you're probably wondering, why have I done this? I chose to do this because I realized, whilst working on my old version, was that I was building this engine from scratch when I didn't really need to. There is no feature or mechanism in the game that would make building an engine from scratch really all too viable. And in Godot, I'm able to get a better workflow going to get features created. So not everything is in the Godot version. So building is not in this version. And the entities walking around and eating berries is not in this version. But there is significant world generation changes. So we see the little Colonist spawns in. We have biomes in the generation, so this is a nice little islandy version that I've got here. So I've got a tundra here, a desert here. I've got some desert trees over there. And I can regenerate that by hitting F5. And we can see here we've got another tundra, we've got a bit of plains, desert. Over here we've got a nice plains biome. And a nice desert biome in here, and a little bit of a savanna. You might notice it looks pretty close, and if I hit F6, I spawn in a new dude. I get a nice little portal effect, and it lights up. Lighting was a big factor into this switch, mainly because I was playing around with it in the shaders last episode, and couldn't get something I was happy with. But Godot has that all built in already, and there's lots of resources on forums about how to achieve certain shader effects, so hopefully I can get a shadow reflecting off of this, a shadow casting off of the arch for the spawner. That's something I'm working on right now. So here's a nice example of biomes. So we've spawned in a tundra biome. Let's spawn in another fella because they've starved to death. We have a nice big tundra biome here with its snowy trees. Over here we have a nice plains biome. So this is actually a really nice world that we got going here. And this is a savanna biome. There are no deserts in this one. So yeah, that's a thing. But every biome will have resources you need to progress in the game. So each biome has their own version of wood. So you've got the savanna there, you've got the plains there, and the tundra there. They all have their own variations of bushes. So you've got the savanna bushes, and you've got the snow-covered bushes, and the regular ones that we're all familiar with. Structure-wise on the game, worlds generate a little bit differently. So if we hop into the technical side, I've set it up where we generate a circular island, like we're all familiar with. I then carve the shape of the island. I apply the biomes on top of that shape. Any area that would be extruding towards the edge of the map, we flood that out. So that shouldn't happen. Sometimes it might happen, so it's just kind of like a failsafe. And then we go, hey, at the edge of all of this island, let's place sand there. so that sand is always adjacent to water. So for beaches, we place our forests down, so that's the trees, and our food resources are the berry bushes. And then finally we place the colonist spawner and we bake the nav mesh. Right now, each biome does not have its own unique tree generation. I need to create that so savannas could have scarce amounts of trees. Deserts could only have a few trees scattered around, and then plains could have huge forests. Right now, it's all just one algorithm, and they all just kind of mush together. What else have I done here? Yes, I have changed the structure of how my code is implemented. So, whereas in the C++ version, I was using inheritance, which was, so we had a big entity class, and then we had a dynamic entity and a static entity in here. We also had an entity building. And I put an inventory system on the entities. But because it's in the entity class here and not its own thing, everything had an inventory. Even the trees had inventories, which was a running joke amongst my friends. But with this new Godot version, I've taken a more of a composite approach, an approach using composition, so that I will create these little components and go, hey, this is a colonist, they need a health component, they need a hunger component. I'm trying to build a pathfinding component, but I'm still kind of wrapping my head around the documentation, rather. Whereas if we take a look at the bush, we go, hey, this is a bush. It needs to grow, so it has a grow component. How long does it take to grow? Since it's harvestable by like a colonist, we need a harvestable component. And because it's capable of growing, we can apply a grow component to it. And we can say, hey, do we want to destroy this object when we harvest it? No. But a tree, for example, take this tree here, it has a harvestable component, and it gets destroyed on harvest. But it doesn't have a grow component, and it doesn't crash, because when I call harvest on these objects, it checks if the grow component node is in the tree, and if it is, it will run the code to, if I pull it up here, it will run the code to harvest a grow component object, so that will call all this and reset the animation frames and reset the timer and reset the flags. Otherwise, it will just destroy the object from existence when it gets harvested. A colonist has the components in its code that it's listening to, and when the colonist runs out of hunger, it will go, "Hey, I'm hungry." And every time a starve tick passes, which for now is 5 seconds, it will say, "Help, I'm starving," and it will take 2 damage. When it has perished, it will say, "I've died," and we will remove the entity out of the scene. Sky pretty much functions exactly the same as the old version. The only difference here is we now have the ability to have lights in the environment, which is really nice. Currently just using a texture and using the additive blending mode and having a light occluder on some of my objects, but I'm not really too happy with how that's looking. But it's better than before, and it's kind of what I was trying to achieve. And you might notice this big building here. This is the granary. This is the first stage of the granary, so this is where your colonist's food will be prepared in the future. First, I want to get the shelter back in action and get the building mechanics up and running. Because I believe the UI and the building is the only thing left for me to put in, aside from the pathfinding thing. But I'm hoping to have pathfinding in for the next one, so it doesn't really matter all too much. Yeah, I can easily make a build. I can give it out. You haven't got to install redistribute C++ redist files. You just run the exe. And Godot takes care of everything. This is my first time using Godot, so like, I'm kind of learning it as I'm going along, so some things might not be as good as they could be. But so far, I think I've made some very good progress, considering I've only been working on this port for the last week or so. But yeah, I need to put back in like hovering over tiles. I need to put back in clicking on the entity to bring up a little menu to move around. I need to bring the clock back in and the build menu and that whole functionality. But yeah, I think that's everything. Well, look, we can see when I spawn a new colonist, it lights up. That's really, I really like that. I like that a lot. But that is not going to be the final sound, so I will be changing that soon. Something I've just noticed, so that's a bit of a bug. That cactus has spawned on some grass. First time I've actually seen it do that. It shouldn't be too difficult to fix. But yeah. I don't know if I'm going to make the C++ versions code available just yet, but I will be keeping a hold of it for anything that I might need it for in the future. And yeah, that's about it really, I think. My focus now is just getting this guy walking around and doing things again. Yeah, how long have I been at this? Been at this at 12 minutes. But yeah, I might make a bigger video in depth to explain my decision, but I don't want these videos to get too long, so I've basically just summarized why I've decided to make this change. One final thing you might have noticed is the world is a lot bigger. It's playing better. It's not capped 60 FPS frame rate. It does look a little pointy at the bottom because originally this was running up this side and this flat bit was along the bottom. It's not quite how Godot does things. But yeah, that's about it. I hope you all like the video. If you leave me a like, that really helps me out a lot. If you leave a comment for some feedback, that would also be great. And as always, subscribe if you're interested in the game, or don't if you're not. That's okay as well. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.